We are so excited to be here. My name is Ryan Conarro, and I'll just underline again the introduction that Claire gave to our session, exploring the porosity of prison spaces through prison radio, transforming spaces of dehumanization and isolation to inclusion and public engagement. The team here, we're going to underline some of these key terms and to share examples of those in action here in Colorado as we go through our session with Dwayne and Marietta there. The work of Inside Wire Colorado Prison Radio is, first of all, exemplified in our spots. Everything we make is produced by and for people inside prison, including our public service announcements, our promotional spots, etc. So what we're going to do first is share let's see here, not that one. Stop sharing. We are going to share a short 1-minute spot that gives a glimpse of the geographical reach of Inside Wire, the first and only radio station from a prison in the U.S. that is statewide. So here we go.
Inside Wire Colorado Prison Radio. This is Inside Wire, turn up your volume higher. Come get your information or just to get inspired. Got content galore, interviews for sure. Got hot topics and programming and music and more. This is not your average prison broadcast. Inside Wire covered a whole mass. Sterling to Canyon City, Canyon out to La Vista. Probably the Arkansas Valley bent to Buena Vista. Lyman the territorial out to Denver Women's, DRDC to the Colorado State Prison. From MRs to camps, from mediums to closed. If you ain't know, you tuned in to Colorado Prison Radio.
Thank you. That was produced by our producer, Darius Turner. We're going to dive into some introductions briefly. My name, again, is Ryan Conarro, and I am privileged to be the General Manager and Program Director for Inside Wire Colorado Prison Radio. I'm going to send it around. I'd love to ask you to share your name, your role here at Inside Wire Lyman Correctional Facility, one of our 4 studios across the state. And also, just in a word or phrase, because of time, a glimpse of something that you're working on right now, a specific thing. We'll start with you, Tyler.
Okay. Hi, my name is Tyler Nelson. I am the sound producer for Inside Wire, and currently I'm working on promotional spots and original music for the radio station.
Good day, my name is Benny Hill, and I am the features manager here at Inside Wire Colorado Prison Radio, and currently I'm working on the endless music morning shows that we do weekly.
Hi, Australia. This is Jody. Nice to see you. I'm the engagement manager here at Inside Wire Colorado Prison Radio, and currently I am working on the never-ending narrative about my journey in prison. So hopefully you like it. Here's our next guy.
My name is Anthony Cubo Quintana, and currently, and I am the engineer and operations manager for Inside Wire. And what I'm currently working on right now is, outside there's so often the narrative of men that don't make it out there in society when they get out of prison. I'm producing a show, a behind the mic interview of a gentleman that's succeeding well out there. And so I sat in here and did a great interview with him. So.
How you doing? My name is Damian Burton. I'm the music manager here at Inside Wire, and currently I'm working on a behind the mic, which basically highlights the profiles of those living and working inside the prisons to see who they are and what they contribute to Inside Wire.
Good morning, Australia. I am Joaquin Mares. I am the production manager here at Inside Wire, and I am currently working on a feature called One Tune. And a One Tune is a show where we invite our guests to talk about a song that would take with them if they were going to be stranded on a desert island or in outer space.
Hi, everyone. I'm Seth Reddy, Communications Associate with Denver University Prison Arts Initiative and Hotlines Manager for Inside Wire Colorado Prison Radio. And when I'm not working on Hotlines, I'm in the process of helping create our 4th Inside Wire studio in Buena Vista, Colorado, where I got my start in radio 20 plus years ago.
Awesome. Maybe we'll keep the sort of microphone for a second more, Dwayne and Marietta, and just share the mission and vision of Inside Wire, and then we'll kick it over to you for introductions and then some time with you. So Damien's going to share the mission of Inside Wire.
Again, my name is Damian Burton. We broadcast music, stories, news, and entertainment across Colorado. Our programs are created by and for incarcerated media producers who uphold the highest aesthetic and journalistic standards as we amplify the voices, stories, and creations of those living and working inside the walls. Inside Wire is the first statewide prison radio station in the history of the U.S. And it's the first in the world to broadcast 24/7 from prison to the public. And the way the public can tune in is by downloading the Inside Wire app and going online to coloradoprisonradio.com. Thank you.
Hello again, this is Joaquin Mares, and I would like to share a bit about our vision with you. Companionship, hope, play, and the potential for positive change. Probably not the first words that come to mind whenever we think about prison. But as a defining feature of the Inside Wire vision, that's what we offer for our creators and audiences alike inside prison. At the same time, Inside Wire invites listeners outside of facilities to shift their understanding of prison in the U.S. by tuning in as well. We believe that fostering community and connection is key to empowering the change we seek to accomplish. So by connecting one producer and one listener at a time, we hope to not only cultivate joy and reflection, but also empower possibility and the restoration of justice. Today, you will be offered an opportunity to embark on a journey with Inside Wire and get a glimpse into the work that goes into meeting our vision one determined step at a time. Please enjoy.
Thank you, Joaquin. Thank you, Joaquin. Dwayne and Marietta, is it a good moment to send it over your way?
Yes, thank you, Ryan. Thank you for all that introduction. So the correctional system in America is mainly based around the goals of custody and order. Prison life is built upon dehumanizing rituals of induction, initiation, hierarchy, degradation, and routine, which are all designed to assert full authority and control over incarcerated people. Individuality is stripped away upon prison entry, replaced by inmate number and a standardized uniform. Life in prison is filled with an endless parade of security measures, routine marked by idleness, risk of violence, and adversarial relationship with prison staff, and only sporadic opportunities for constructive engagement. Therefore, incarcerated individuals live in harsh, dystopian social world of values and rules, which are designed to control, isolate, disempower, and erode a sense of autonomous self. Inside Wire offers practices of resistance against the extreme and dehumanizing isolation which is inherent in the design of carceral settings. It transforms spaces of dehumanization and isolation to inclusion and public engagement. It also provides a story-centered path toward actualizing the values of restorative justice.
I'll continue on the introductions. My name is Dwayne Antojado, and I work with Marietta on an initiative at Marietta University. I also had the great privilege of attending the first International Prison Radio Conference in Oslo in June of this year, and I'm now a member of the advisory council, I'm going to call it, of Prison Radio International, which works with Colorado Prison Radio as well as a variety of other stations. Right on my program here, it says there's a clip you wanted to show. Do you want to show that clip first, and I'll go through?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's great. Sorry, I skipped it just for time, but this is just another brief spot. Just gives another bit of the sense of how the mission and vision of Inside Wire that Damien and Joaquin shared kind of comes through sound to our listeners as produced by this team. So this spot also highlights specifically the music shows of Inside Wire. Just a moment. Here we go.
Hey. Hey, that's lit. Electric like the wire, we connected on the inside. A penny for my thoughts, music beating in the G-Rock. Inside wire, about to hit you with that hip-hop. Country indie artists, here you know we got that new pop. Rock when we roll, then we roll when we rock. Music for your soul when your heart out of stop. Electric like the wire, we connected on the inside. Inside wire, Colorado prison radio. Hey, Colorado prison radio. Hey, Colorado prison radio. Hey, music beating in the G-Ride. Colorado prison radio on the inside. Hey, oh, had to be jumping right there. I like that. Yeah. Beating in the G-Ride. Beating in the G-Ride. Beating in the G-Ride. We connected on the inside.
Thanks, Ryan. So I guess to tie this more to the carceral geographical perspective, as you'll see in this presentation, this whole very idea, this whole very initiative of prison radio resists against this term of carceral that Moran presents. This very conception, or this very idea of the deployment of a new range of social control and coercion techniques, otherwise articulated by Foucault as these coercive technologies of behavior. Also, in addition to that, previously carceral spaces have been argued or placed as being these impermeable, stagnant, and static places where knowledge or experiences don't seep out of them. You know, they're this sub-community within the broader society. But I think today in this conference, we're witnessing a very challenge to that. We're literally video calling people inside carceral spaces. And I think this is what's one of the beauties of prison radio, is that this is happening here for the next hour and a half, but this happens every single day in a prison radio setting where incarcerated people, just like what the panel speaker said before, share their knowledge of what it's like to be incarcerated. They pervade, create, and demythologize this whole very idea of the prisoner, of the prison. And they create a space in which people with lived experience can share their stories and can be part of that criminal justice discourse. And in some ways, it's also challenging this idea of the carceral turn, you know, this punitive society we're becoming by showing society the real life or real life scenarios of what actually occurs inside prisons, creating this countercurrent that's often pervaded in mainstream discourse. But I will now go back to Ryan to share more with you about what Inside Wire does.
Thank you so much, Dwayne. Thank you very much. So as we said at the beginning, we want to kind of underline or try to demonstrate how the work of Inside Wire, we believe, exemplifies some of what's written in the description of this session. So the team here earlier today, we were having a little holiday meal and making these sort of headings for these next sessions. So this one is personal growth, sense of inclusion. The idea of this work producing in the studio being a means of personal growth. So Benny, you want to speak to that a little bit?
Absolutely. Thank you for your time and thank you for this opportunity. Again, my name is Benny Hill and I've been incarcerated for 22 years. Prisons of old here in America have been a thing where I think Marietta kind of touched on a little bit of isolation, control. And for many years, I would have to say maybe about 19 of those 22 years, I spent alone in my cell, drawing, isolated, being away from other people, not talking to guards. And that had cultivated a lot of insecurities. It cultivated a lot of introversy, right? Being an introvert. So whenever I would talk to anybody, a stranger or a guard, I really got a lot of anxiety. So when Inside Wire came along and other programs, it forced you to stand in a group of people and act out in a way where you normally don't act out in a way in front of other people. Like me talking to you right now was something I would have never been able to do without being poured and drenched in sweat. And unfortunately, though, it's a story that's common to a lot of people. My story, and this isn't an isolated thing. There's still a lot of people who deal with this anxiety of being isolated, being locked in a cell, and never having contact with anybody outside of people in their own little circles. So there's the room that you see here now, but there's also 900 other people in the prison behind us right now. I wish could be here. I wish programs like this was available to all of those people, because what it's done for me, what it's done for the man behind me, is something that we'll carry for the rest of our lives. And the fact that it's not available to those guys is something that Inside Wire wants to create, is try to bring these people in, hear their stories, and hear what they have to say. Thank you for your time.
So we're going to share a little glimpse of a clip of an episode of One Tune, well, it was mentioned earlier, One Tune, the show where the guest, in this case Benny, who we met, selects his one song that he would take with him on a deserted island. And this clip of this conversation kind of exemplifies what you were just sharing, Benny, as well. So a clip of Benny with host Joaquin Mares in One Tune.
All I need is one tone.
How has your journey here at Inside Wire impacted your life?
Well, before Inside Wire, I was very awkward around strangers. I was very shy. I didn't talk to staff, and I was a recluse in my room doing artwork. So when I came to Inside Wire, we started doing like meetings. I remember the first time I read a paragraph in front of the Inside Wire team. My heart was racing. I was stuttering, and I didn't think I could do it. And it's just a paragraph, right?
Mm-hmm.
But my journey with Inside Wire has forced all of that to open up and be myself.
So that's a bit of reflection on the personal growth, the sort of sense of personal, sort of intrapersonal growth. A next heading that we kind of want to underline is communal sense of inclusion, beginning to touch on that porosity that we talk about in the description. How does connection get built between people? And we're going to start with actually a clip from one of our other studios, which is the Denver Women's Correctional Facility in Denver, obviously. So Lyman team is one of 4 producer teams for Inside Wire. We have a show called Behind the Mic, which you mentioned earlier, Damien. Profiles of people across Colorado. So this is a Behind the Mic interview between Cynthia Gonzalez and Tiffany McCoy, where we can just hear them, connecting in a simple and profound way about their experience of incarceration.
I'm Cynthia Gonzalez, and we're back with Tiffany McCoy. And before the break, she was sharing with me her struggles with abandonment and how it eventually led her down a path to prison. She shared with me how hard she's worked on herself to overcome and how valuable Al-Anon has been to her in her life. Now she continues to tell her story by sharing her longing to reconnect with her daughter and how meaningful it has been for her to allow her heart to feel again. How hard was it for you to come into prison so young?
It was hard. I always felt like I was missing so much. Like I should have been in college. I had a daughter, so I should have been with my daughter. But things used to bother me. Like I wish that I lived a little bit more before I came, because there's things I don't even know. I've never been into a bar, ever been into a bar. I don't know how to drive. There's just so many things that it's going to be real weird and hard for me when I get out. I feel like I'm going to be the weirdo in the room, I'm going to be like 35 with my, what is it called? Driver's permit, So things like that are super hard.
What motivates you in here?
My daughter, because eventually I want her to meet me.
So a moment between Tiffany and Cynthia. Another example that we'd like to share of this communal sense of inclusion, this porosity, is an inside to outside connection that happens. And we were talking earlier today about how in radio, in any context, with or without prison, just the form of media that we work in, it's rare and special when we get to get a glimpse of how what we're doing might be reaching people. Who's listened when, because it's so ephemeral and happening across time and space. So we were really pleased that CBS Mornings, the US network, came in earlier this year to do a feature here at Loughnan about Inside Wire. And as part of what they did, they also met in the Denver area with your daughter, Jody.
And daughter, yeah. And what it does, this clip highlights how my daughter can feel connected to her father through what we're doing here in studio. So if I cry, forgive me. This is my beautiful daughter Amber on the CBS morning show.
This is about a 1 minute long clip.
Inside Wire's name refers to wire as a connection.
Ready for some football, you know what I mean?
A connection that has the power to travel 90 miles, reaching Aguirre's daughter, Amber Baca.
My boys get to listen to him, my husband, and so it makes a sense of like we're together even though we can't be.
She was just 11 years old when her father was arrested.
I'm gonna take you into some cool songs right now.
Now she listens first thing every Tuesday morning when his show airs.
Are you proud of your dad? I'm very proud of my dad. The strength that he has and the strength that he's been able to withhold this whole time, I feel like most people would crumble under, but he just strives and gets higher and higher. And that's really important to me. Why is that? Because I love him and he deserves it. He's worked really hard at being the best person that he can be.
Though he'll likely never leave prison, Aguirre is striving to be a better man than the one who first walked in.
Do what I remember. I go to my cell and I feel like I've accomplished something every day.
Thank you. Thank you, Jody. Oh, well, thank you for that. So our next area we want to focus on is music. So one thing that is just underlining again that Inside Wire is a 24/7 radio station. So it includes a morning music show, includes music throughout the day with the features and news and announcements sprinkled in. So music specifically as a tool of resistance against the sort of prevalent isolation in prison, music as resistance. So we talked about sort of sharing a couple anecdotes about how the music specifically can do that. Maybe we'll start with your story, Jimmy.
Yes, actually been in communication with another resident at another facility who listens to my show on a regular. Ryan also related to me another incident where another inmate at another facility told him about how he liked my music show. So it just shows the connection that we're making within the walls and how it impacts the lives of others. So yes, it's real cool stuff, man. Stuff that we couldn't even imagine, happening is happening. So here we go.
You want to slide in? Sure. So kind of on that same topic, Jody, if you would share about your own personal experience of music's impact on you.
Yeah. Almost 20 years ago, I had written different organizations to help me. Oprah Winfrey, Dateline, 2020, asking anyone, please investigate my case. Please help me. In a desperate attempt to bring attention to my case, I ended up in solitary confinement for a number of years. And while I was there, I endured all the things that everybody in solitary confinement does, all the thoughts. And just so you know, this clip has mentioned suicide. So please beware, if anybody in the audience or anybody listening, if this is a trigger to you, please leave the room because this is the serious topic of suicide. In this clip, I'm in one of the darkest moments of my solitary confinement sentence, and I'm about to commit suicide, basically, and a song happened. So this is produced by my brother Joaquin Mares. This is the one tune series that we do. And here it is.
Just to let the listener know, you have a life sentence without the possibility of parole.
Yes.
And so you're stuck in your cell all day. You feel like, you know, nothing matters. The circumstances of your case are tragic in and of itself. And so to add on top of all that, you know, all those things contributed to a hopeless circumstance where I'm sure you felt powerless and alone. And so you're braiding this bed sheet, man, to do something devastating. And in the process of doing that, this song comes on. So what were the lyrics in that song that caught your attention?
Don't give up. That was the first words that I heard. And it was like this funnel or this tunnel of these words, don't give up, right to me. And then it said, you still have us. And it was like the world opened up. It was like, you know, like it was sound again around me. And there was no more darkness. There was nothing. I even forgot what I was doing because of those words. I forgot what I was doing.
Don't give up, you still have us. Don't give up now, we're proud of who you are.
Thank you for that, Jody and Joaquin, both of you. And so continuing on that sort of theme of music as a tool of resistance against isolation, Tyler, you're going to share something as well.
Yeah, my name is Tyler Nelson. I am the sound producer at Inside Wire. And we've been talking about the power of music, geographical reach, porosity, and inclusion. And I think this example that I'm about to share with you touches on all those topics. This is one of many letters that we receive in support of our music shows and our features. This is from another facility, specifically about my music show, Sonic Sundays. So here it is. It says, hope this email finds you in good health and spirits. I just wanted to say thank you for orchestrating Sonic Sundays on Inside Wire. It has been incredible to hear premier electronic dance music on a weekly basis. I have witnessed it impact a large amount of people at Fremont Correctional Facility. On many occasions, I have stumbled across groups of listeners and felt the uplifting vibe from them that was created through the music and interconnectedness. Sonic Sundays has already become a ritual for me, and I look forward to every installment. Hope all is well on your end, and thank you for the amazing work. Thank you for letting me share it.
In the mix with TY.
Yes. So thank you for that. And kind of extending on that, we want to touch on this topic, flipping the script on carceral surveillance. So we want to zoom in specifically on relatingness between residents of facilities and correctional staff in facilities. And that from the outset, and Damien mentioned this in the mission of Inside Wire, we articulated a mission of including shifting the conversation around prison and including staff in that change is something we believe is really important. And that's a value we bring from University of Denver Prison Arts Initiative, our parent organization. And that happens right here in the booth behind us, in the music shows, and in features with staff as guests, staff as co-hosts. So Q, you were going to share a little bit about that.
Absolutely. First of all, hi, Marietta, Dwayne. My name is Anthony Cuvo Quintana. I'm the Monday morning DJ. And when I was first incarcerated over 30 years ago, there was no staff inmate resident dynamic working together to improve prison life. In fact, it was forbidden to socialize on either side of the aisle. Inside Wire Denver University, through their Prison Arts Initiative, has broken that divide and is cultivating a more normalized incarcerated environment with a community mentality between both staff and residents. Here's a clip that I want to play for you. This is kind of a fun clip where Jody and the warden and the associate warden are teasing me on my radio show. I think you guys will enjoy it. It's self-explanatory.
Yeah. So the warden and the associate warden jumped in the sound booth with Jody and Q to co-host the morning show. Let's find that here.
All right, this is Anthony Cuvo Quintana.
Gino Redman.
Terry Jaquez.
Jody Barbados Aguirre.
And we're your hosts today on the Jam and Toast Morning Show. Yeah, we're all kicking it here today. A bunch of old timers. I know that we've been doing a lot of time. Jody, kick this thing.
Who's an old timer in this group?
Yeah, you ain't lying.
I think this guy looked like he had Farrah Fawcett's hairdo on Joe Dirt's body.
Come on, stick up for me, Warden.
I thought you were more like that Britney Spears.
Oh my gosh! Oh no, I'm gonna spin a break.
And
you guys have got some bad pictures going. Period. Oh.
And I know she was cute, but that's not any reason to listen to that stuff.
Exactly.
Well, with that being said, we're gonna take a short break right here before I get in too much trouble.
Hey, this is Amber Peterson, Strategy and Innovation Specialist at Colorado DOC headquarters, and you are sipping your Java on the Cuvo Show with Inside Wire, Colorado Prison Radio.
All right, we're going to keep going with some Jewel and Foolish Games.
I'm so sorry to interrupt Jewel. That is very rude of us. Don't tell her. Jewel, if you're tuned in by Zoom, I'm sorry. We have another show that also exemplifies this, which is called Up to the Minute. And it's a weekly unfiltered conversation between our producers and executive leadership at the Department of Corrections. I want to share a glimpse of a promo, a promotional spot that kind of tells you the story of what Up to the Minute is. This is produced by our producer at Denver Women's, Sarah Berry, this promotional spot.
The Department of Corrections is in a new era of time where the residents and staff hear from and see more of the executive director and his staff members than ever before. Here on Inside Wire, we get the opportunity to have unfiltered conversations with Dean Williams and some of his staff members about their perspectives and their positions, what they see for the department, and what is going on within the department.
If you're listening to this and you're a person who's living in DOC right now, and you're trying to figure out your way forward, go find the other guys, men and women around you who have found their way forward too, right?
So that's a beginning of a spot that includes some excerpts from past episodes. Just, 3 weeks ago? Yes. 3 weeks ago, Dean Williams, the director of the department, resigned and retired. We are in this exciting transition, this exciting period of unknowns. The new interim executive director is Andre Stansel, who was the deputy under Dean Williams. So you want to take it from there?
So yeah, we don't only have fun on the radio like you just heard. We ask the tough questions that everybody in every facility will hear the answers to. From being the ones surveilled to actually shifting the power dynamic and flipping the script, and we doing the questioning. Right here, I'm questioning the brand new executive director of the Department of Corrections.
Decades, Mr. Joaquin Mares. I mean, I've been locked up 3 decades. Mr. Joaquin Mares has been locked up. A lot of us have many years. And one of the fears of a new director coming in is that things are going backwards. Oh no, we're done. What's going, there's always going to be that fear of panic. What would you say to those folks, sir?
Just tell them to stay calm. I
we have a lot of things that are broken that need to be fixed. So the things that aren't broken, we don't need to be fixing them. And there's a lot of great things, the radio show, the plays, DUPI. There's a lot of great things out there that's being done that they're not even on the radar right now of trying to fix because they're not broken. So if I can say anything to calm people, staffing is the number one priority. And trying to undo anything that's been done, that's not on my list right now. That's not on my list, period.
Thank you. Thank you for that cue. I think it's worth naming that the way that up to the minute that weekly show functions in an agreement with the executive leadership of the Department of Corrections. As we say, it's an unfiltered conversation, and they agreed. Williams agreed when we launched Inside Wire to engage with this team as any other media outlet, inside or out. So the director or a deputy will give their interview once a week, and then the team edits and produces it, and it airs. There's no additional sort of review that happens, so that the show doesn't become a megaphone, if you will, for department messaging. Of course, it can be a place to share announcements and updates, but it really is driven by the production team here. And that's an opportunity to also shout out and thank National Prison Radio in the UK, who in many ways gave me personally and us a lot of guidance and support as we built the framework for Inside Wire. And among those inspirations from them was their own version of this periodic routine with their executive leadership. And it also touches on something else in this topic about carceral dynamics between residents and staff, that we are in this complex and very important sort of dance of working within a system and also working to reform that system. We at the DU Prison Arts Initiative at Inside Wire believe that real change can happen from inside by building relationships and incrementally shifting things. And we hope that this exemplifies that. I also want to name what happens when, say, the warden or a correctional officer from the unit who leads housing or laundry comes and sits down across the table on the microphone with one of our team members. It is a real power shift. And we, again, talk about this in radio outside of prison too. When we wield a microphone in radio, it also brings power. Somebody else suddenly becomes vulnerable, suddenly becomes open to sharing if they consent, and suddenly there's an openness there. And so we're experiencing that in the same way you do in any radio context, but even more kind of amplified or exponentiated when you sort of step back and realize, oh, the person at the board who's at the controls, who's in control, is an incarcerated person, and the person who's the subject is now a correctional officer. Really interesting dynamics that play there. So that kind of leads us to creating a countercurrent to dominant discourses. Basically shifting the narrative. How can this work that we're doing play some part in shifting the narrative on who and what is in prison? And Seth, Seth and I get to be colleagues together, but Seth, your experience and perspective are so vital to this. So if you kind of jump in here.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Ryan, and good to see you guys. Dwayne, how's it going? Yeah, so I guess like I said during my introduction, I am previously incarcerated. I've been out of prison for 12 and a half years now. During my stay, I especially early on, you could say I was a bit of a management problem. About a decade into my sentence, I got involved in a radio broadcasting course that was a intra-facility kind of commercial radio class that you could get involved with in Buena Vista. And I went there for selfish reasons, just, based in radio, the first thought for me is music and song. And so I was just trying to get exposure to more music. And so I was introduced to this class. I was introduced to radio as as a platform, as a production feature, and I really fell in love with it. The best job of my life. Fast forward now, and being out of prison brought with it a lot of the stumbles that I think a lot of people go through, and through that journey, it led me towards DU Pi and Denver University Prison Arts Initiative. And within that, I seen a job listing for Inside Wire, and I couldn't believe my eyes. It was like a dream come true. I filled out the application, and the only certificates I kept after 15 years of incarceration were those radio broadcasting certificates. And I was able to put them back in play so many years later. And now I have my new favorite job in life, and that's working amongst, my incarcerated community and, trying to, better that the system any way I can, just because I know the pitfalls. So thank you.
Yeah, well, I want to jump in there and say thank you, Seth. And I want to share a clip of audio to kind of extend that conversation, which is a series that Seth and I are producing right now, along with our colleague Joel Phelan, who's on the DU Prison Arts Initiative staff, manages our prison newspaper, The Inside Report, and is also formerly incarcerated as well. This is a series about reentry. So we've been doing work outside facilities, talking to people who've sort of made it out and stayed out of prison, and some of the organizations that have helped them along the way. And so to me, this little clip, the beginning of this is both saying, look at him now, like here's Seth sort of full circle and producing this really awesome work. Yes. And then also saying, how we are continuing to look at how lived experience, currently or formerly incarcerated, needs to be at the center of the dialogue and how the system changes. The series is called Worthy. It's a 4-part series. It starts broadcasting next week, so check out our website if you'd like to tune in. And also I want to shout out Tyler Nelson behind you, Seth, who is producing the music on this, the show theme for this, and the underscoring. So here's a little excerpt of an episode of Worthy that Seth is producing and he and I are co-hosting that will premiere next week.
So play it smart and do your part, because we all are worthy.
I'm Seth Reddy.
And I'm Ryan Conarro with Inside Wire Colorado Prison Radio.
And today's story is paired with a nice hot pot of coffee. And that's because this episode of Worthy is a caffeinated brew of art, reentry, and realness. First, we'll enjoy a cup of conversation with Joy Bell Phelan, a Colorado resident who experienced a double shot of reentry.
You're not going to be successful in life. Nobody gets through this life by themselves. You have to have some level of support system. And so I was very proactive in creating that for myself the second time around, because I think that's really necessary. You can't do this by yourself.
And we'll meet Lori Lazar, founder of The Realness Project.
Through The Realness Project, Lori brings her own blend of art and communication into prisons in a process called authentic relating.
Thank you. Yeah, so that kind of rounds out our series of examples of real things happening in this room and the other studios across Inside Wire's reach that we hope exemplifies some of the conversation. I'll send it back over to you, Dwayne and Marietta, and just say we have another clip that we had in the outline that we can go to later if we want to, but we can see where the conversation takes us. Before I send it to you too, I should also make sure you know that right on the hour, the team will have to leave because they're locking down at that time. So Seth and I can probably linger if we need to, but they'll have to disappear right on the hour. Just
all right, thank you. I think you've all heard of the sort of power of prison radio and what it can do to transform, I guess, society in the way we perceive incarcerated people and the carceral space itself. But I just kind of want to contextualize the Colorado Insider Prison Radio in sort of in comparison rather to an Australian context. When we hear sentences of 20 years, 30 years, life sentences, these are very rare things that I'm sure as academics and practitioners that we hear about in Australia. Maybe you'll have a handful that people experience these long sentences. But in the United States, these sentences are very common. In fact, the majority of people in prisons experience long sentences. And I had the great privilege of joining Ryan and Marietta and my colleague Tami earlier this year to visit a prison. And the stories you hear of these long sentences and the conditions in which they're placed is appalling. So I guess I just want to thank the men for their generosity in sharing their stories, as tough as it is. So if we could just all give the men a round of applause for sharing their stories. Thank you, guys. And I guess throughout this presentation, you would have seen sort of examples in the way in which prison radio seeps beyond prisoner walls, seeps beyond physical spaces of confinement, creating this, as Ryan said before, communal sense of inclusion, using music as a form of resistance against isolation, flipping the script of carceral surveillance. Now, incarcerated people have a platform, a captive platform to speak about what their experience of incarceration looked like, quashing these assumptions about prison life. We now don't just rely on the media or Hollywood films or TV shows to know what prison is like, secondhand information. We have real-time information from people currently experiencing incarceration. So I think you should all do yourselves a favor. If you work in the criminal justice system and you don't listen to prison radio, there's something wrong there. So I think, as a plug for Ryan, as a plug for any prison radio, I think you do yourself a favor and learn and listen from people with lived experience currently or formerly experiencing incarceration. And I think what Inside Wire and other prison radio station does and podcasts is that it allows people from inside prisons or people who've had experience of incarceration to inform public discourses about criminal justice matters. And I think not many initiatives in the criminal justice space can claim to do that. So I think that's a very unique point of what prison radio does. And I think also more of incarcerated people themselves through this experience, literally inform. We don't have to read a journal. I'm not saying that journals, you should read them, but we don't have to read a journal to understand what prison is like. We can ask them. And oftentimes in research, we don't ask them. We cite people who've never been to prison before. We are in a space where there's no lived experience academics in academia. It's like if you want to become a doctor and then you went to medical school and all of your lecturers are not doctors. Be pretty weird, right? I'd be pretty uncomfortable getting operated on by someone who wasn't taught by a doctor. And I think that's kind of the same issue, right? Is that this idea of lived experience and the way prison radio transforms and informs our knowledge of lived experience is really important. And I think prison radio is not just about purveying knowledge, but it's also a form of advocacy. It allows people to think differently about this mythologized incarcerated person. We're not all dumb, we're not all stupid. And I think that's a really, really important point. It creates that really important countercurrent. In terms of surveying the sort of field of prison radio internationally and nationally, there is a growing movement of prison radio. And as before, I attended the first International Prison Radio Conference in Oslo earlier this year. There are publications written about it by incarcerated people, by academics, by journalists, both in sort of academic and non-academic outlets. And there's an establishment of the Prison Radio International, this sort of body or international cooperative that brings together practitioners and academics in this field. And hopefully again next year in London in 2023, the second Prison Radio International Conference is to be held, which I'm looking forward to attending, hopefully with my colleagues. And some of the guys on screen there with you. Look, Ryan's nodding. Yep, we're going. And there are efforts to sort of establish this initiative locally, particularly within this jurisdiction. But I guess what I urge you to do, as this is an academic conference, is that when you write your next paper, when you do your next research piece, when you decide to know what it's like to be in prison, don't read a publication at first. Of course, go read it afterwards. That's your job, right? But go and engage with people with lived experience. Listen to prison radio. Listen to the hundreds or tens of podcasts available out there, because
it's a bit inaccurate to get information from an academic who went to uni that's never been to prison to know about prison. But I'll leave it there, Ryan. Off back to you.
All right. Well, I'm going to give a shameless plug that you can look up the website, which is coloradoprisonradio.com. And you can not only see the stories, the creation of our theme, but you can also download it on your devices and listen to our shows every day. Tune in and listen to us.
Yeah.
And what about the SoundCloud as well?
Yeah. So coloradoprisonradio.com is where you can get the stream and you can download the app from there. And then we actually haven't even announced this publicly, but it is live. We just haven't yet announced it. We just launched SoundCloud archive of past features. So if you're interested in exactly what you just said, Dwayne, like really meeting people through the audio, you can now tune in to the real-time broadcast. You can also go to past aired works on your own time, just same way you engage in a podcast. So from coloradoprisonradio.com, from the homepage, you'll see a button for the real-time broadcast, what's airing right now, and then right below it, the archive link, which takes you to that. So explore and enjoy. Maybe I'll share that one more clip, Dwayne and Marietta. Do you think so?
Yeah, last one. We get questions.
Questions now?
No. To share it, and we can go to questions afterwards.
Okay, great. Sorry. So one other thought you could say here. One other moment. There's just so many. We were talking earlier tonight about so many sort of remarkable moments that we're all getting to experience, like highlight days, big events. This is another one today. One that stands out in my memory, partly just because it was the highlight for me personally, was when one of our fellow producers, Herbert Alexander, who's at Buena Vista Correctional Facility, our fourth studio, which Seth manages. Herbert was working on a long-form narrative piece called Incarcerated Dads, and it's exploring how can one show up as a father from inside prison to a child who's outside, of course. And so as part of his exploration and building the story, he started to feel like the person's voice who was missing was his son's perspective. And so happily, with the permission of the Department of Corrections, I was able to go to Herbert's home and interview Herbert's wife and son. So this is just about a minute and a half long clip from that piece of Herbert's final piece, Incarcerated Dads, which again kind of exemplifies the porosity, not just of the broadcast to a listener, but also in the making of how some of these connections start to grow and shift.
So the big question remains, can love without presence be enough to make sure that our kids grow to be better than us? So I asked my man RC to get in on the producing of this story.
That's me. I'm Ryan Conarro. Hey, Herbert.
He's a general manager here at Inside Wire Colorado Prison Radio. And I sent Ryan to my home to talk to my wife, Shawnee, who actually calls me Ben.
Would you be willing to introduce yourself as well, just for the recording?
Well, I'm Shantae Alexander and mother of Carter Alexander.
And if you remember me mentioning, I have 2 sons. My oldest, he's out of the house now. My youngest, though, don't forget, he's the one who was born right before I came to prison. My boy Carter. He's 13.
Will you, would you mind describing the visiting room as you remember it? Just like for someone who, imagine, I mean, I've been there, but imagine that somebody's never been there, like just describe that space.
It's a very open space. There's 3 vending machines to like the left of the room. You come in from like this area where you can put your coats on. There's sliding doors that they open. They go slow so you don't like get crushed. And then it opens. It makes like this big noise like.
Now, as my son lays down the floor plans for the LCF visiting room, I can't help but wonder if his feelings have changed toward me once he found out how much of a screw-up I was in my younger years.
Oh, no, it didn't change how I saw about him because I can already tell he changed because when I heard that like 2-3 years ago, I think it was. From what I've heard, like he was robbing banks and stuff. He went back to prison like 3 times, I think it was. I was shocked when I heard that. It was like I know he's not gonna do that anymore when he gets out, because I know he's not dumb anymore. I know he's not gonna do stupid things anymore. I know he's not gonna rob a bank.
Thank you for that. So yeah, just a little glimpse of that piece. And yeah, we'd love to just kind of open it up for some conversation. We just got word to get ready for the shift to lockdown over here, so there'll be a little flurry as we pack up some equipment in the studio. But we can hear you, so we'll jump into Q&A time with you.
Great. Thanks so much, Ryan, and thanks, guys. Thanks, Seth, and everyone who spoke today. I'm just going to throw it open to the room to see if any questions. I'll pass it across. And if anyone has questions on Zoom, do pop them in the chat. Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me? I'm Antojado. I'm a professor at Boston University, and I'm just deeply moved by the work that you are doing. My work is mainly in the DOC in Boston, and it's as those of you who work in the United States know that we have 3,500 or so completely autonomous prison systems. And so all I want to say is I'm really extremely moved by the work that you're doing, and I'm going to our prison DOC system is extremely repressive. Extremely, we couldn't possibly do anything like this. But when people like you do this kind of groundbreaking work, it gives us an opportunity to argue for it in our own systems. So, thank you very, very much for this wonderful work. There wasn't a question. It was just a comment. Thank you very, very much for that wonderful work.
Thank you, and a very important comment nonetheless. I have another question just at the back and then one at the front.
Hi, thank you so much for that. That was amazing. It was touched on a little bit before that in Australia we tend to have shorter sentences than in the US, and especially in Victoria, the state that we're in, with bail laws, we have a lot of people in prison on remand, so they're not there for, well, they don't know how long they're going to be there for. And I guess that was just making me wonder how much like having that time kind of helps with developing a program like this, and like having that continued input from certain people is needed to make it a strong program, and a program that's led by people who have that experience inside.
Thank you for that.
Maybe you can start, Ryan. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Marietta. I'm like, I'll take it. I will just say that it's certainly consideration as we prepared to launch Inside Wire and built our founding team, which is this team, and then our additional teams at the other 3 facilities. It is basically a piece of criteria. How long are you expecting to be incarcerated? And just because of the nature of the training, what it takes to learn the equipment, to get oriented to all the pieces, technically, we generally ask that make it accessible to people who are incarcerated for at least 1 year out or longer. That said, from the outset, this team and the others have really dived into the corresponding goal of making this the people's radio station. So a big effort, I mean, Jody, you're the engagement manager. A big effort that everyone here makes is inviting guests in and teaching them so that they are building skills and tools. They're just not on the permanent sort of team. We've also learned by experience now, just 9 months in, that the system, as much as it's shifting in progressive ways, it also has creaky, long-standing ways it functions that interrupt the sort of continuity of relationship that we're trying to exemplify here. So people get moved very suddenly, sometimes without any sense of control by anybody. I will say for me personally, that's been a really harsh waking up that sadly most of you guys are much more accustomed to than I have been in the past couple of years. So it happens and has been happening that we get short, those relationships get cut short. Marietta, did you want to add anything to that, or Dwayne?
Probably I just want to add a couple of things. I think there's always going to be reasons not to do something, or there is going to be, something that is not going to work as well in another system. But given that it's such a great program, I think we've got to make it happen. And I don't see why in the future somebody who has been actually released can't go back into the prison and continue on doing this kind of work, very much like what Seth is doing over in Denver. Yes, plug for Seth. So I think that we shouldn't be sort of, persuaded from that, even though somebody say, in power might say, oh, well, this can't work. Of course it can. We can make it work and just work around it. But that's a really good question.
Thanks so much. I've got another question over here.
Hi guys, my jaw dropped when I heard some of the sentences that you guys are doing. I just finished 4 years, and you make me feel like a pup. It's unthinkable to imagine those sorts of sentences. So well done, and this initiative, I'm sure, gives you something to look forward to and something to occupy your time with. That's very, very productive, and congratulations, it's huge. My question, however, is I understand it's all funded through Denver Uni, is that right? Yeah. So you've got 4 studios full of pretty high-tech equipment. You've got Ryan's salary, which I'm sure is huge. But the overall cost of all of this is not picked up in any way by the system, the correction system over there. Is that right? It's all funded externally.
No,
Yeah.
and I want to make sure I'm clear. We are University of Denver Prison Arts Initiative is under a contract with the Department of Corrections. So we, like my employer, if you will, is the university, but a significant amount of the costs of Inside Wire is being supported by the Department of Corrections through their contract with us. So how we pay for this is a combination of that contract plus an array of donors and other grants and support that way. But the bulk of it is through the Department of Corrections. And any little thing in this room, you could say some of it that we purchased using the money that was through our contract, and sometimes a facility will support and say, actually, we'll cover that. We're gonna, buy the audio booth, for example, and then we'll own it, that kind of thing.
Thanks so much, Ryan. I just wondered if I don't know if there are other questions at the moment. I have one. If there's not, there's another question at the back here. But I'll come to that at the end. I'll hand it to the floor first. Thank you.
Thank you for your great talk. I feel honored to hear your voices from the prisons. And then my question is to the people who has been incarcerated for a long time, and how this kind of initiative or technology have changed your way of communication with outside. And it has been, I know because I'm working with people incarcerated through letters, and this kind of communication is really rare and it costs a lot, as someone already pointed out. It should be funded in an enormous way. And then especially to people who has been there for a long time, they can answer me the question how those kind of technology affected your psyche, and then I don't know, lighten up your life, perhaps?
Yes, when I first got this job, was given this position, I often called myself the janitor in a spaceship because I've been down for 3 decades. And when I was out there last, there was a big Motorola phones, and they have phones with cameras on them now and computers that do things that I didn't know that they did. So yes, this has been overwhelming, but so rewarding, and I've learned so much in this past year and a half, because we did a year training before we actually launched this radio station. So there's a lot involved in this. We had to learn how to, well, I had to learn how to maneuver files and everything else. But yes, it's transformed my life in such, it makes me feel like I'm worth something now. It's given me that worth after so many years of incarceration. So yes, I hope that answered your question.
Thanks so much. Anyone else want to add to that? Yeah.
My name is Jody Barbados too. No, I'm kidding. This is Anthony. And I'm just giving him a bad time. But no, it's super that we've been given the opportunity to have purpose and meaning in our lives in here. You know what they've taught us, not only as Benny shared earlier, of opening ourselves up, being able to communicate more, but to be able to be creative through the platform of technology is great. I've been a musician all my life, and when I came into here, this was a whole new platform. Music was my way of escaping prison, so to say. Now coming in here and doing these shows, sharing the stories of men, sharing music of inspiration and hope with people, and being able to create them programs on this technology has been so rewarding, so powerful for me. And I've been locked up probably the longest in this group, going on 34 years. I was just recently fired because I'm getting ready to leave. I'm on the way home after many years, but no, I'm not fired. But the reality is that I've also gained through this technology an opportunity for myself when I leave here. So this is transferable into when I step out of here. I already have college credits from the Denver University regarding audio production and narrative storytelling. So I'm already equipping myself and preparing myself for my next phase in life. So thank you for that question. Great question.
Okay, Tyler was going to jump in and share as well.
Hi, my name is Tyler Nelson. These guys were touching on their lack of experience with technology, especially when it comes to computers and music technology. And I came in from the opposite side of the spectrum, where I've been producing music, especially digital music and audio engineering and stuff, my whole life. So when I came to prison and that outlet was taken away from me, I've been longing to get back into a position where I have that again in my life. And Inside Wire has really provided me a sense of purpose. I wake up every day energized, running over here. You know, we spend 12 hours a day over here at least, and we love every minute of it. And also getting to bring my experience with digital audio workstations, audio engineering, and the sort to help these guys, because in my opinion, they're still janitors in the spaceship, you know, even after the time they have spent here. So, but yeah. But yeah, so getting to that, have a sense of purpose, interconnectedness, community, and all that has been a real rich experience for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Tyler. Let's do this. Benny wanted to say something. Benny, why don't you come close? We're just getting notification that there's some staffing stuff going on. We're gonna have to like stretch a wrap up on this end. I apologize for that. But Benny, if you want to share, and then let's wrap up and get stuff put away so that Lieutenant Barnett can take us out.
Something that we had to close this out.
Sure.
Okay, well, just real quick. So part of the question was about the psyche of what is going on. So we work a lot of hours. I mean, we have a lot of tight deadlines. So one day I went back to my cell and I was sitting up in my bunk watching TV, and I nodded off. And I woke up and I had clutched in my hand my blanket, and I was clicking it like a mouse. And I thought, well, I think I worked way too hard. And also, here's another thing. So I've been down 22 years, like some of these other guys been down longer. And a lot of us are sitting on life without the possibility of parole. I just want to show you something that our boss, Ryan Conarro, brought us in that a lot of us haven't had in 22 years. Thank God for Kentucky Fried Chicken. Let's give a big round of applause for Kentucky Fried Chicken. Thank you all for coming out. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Anthony, Damien, Joaquin, Ben, Jody, Tyler, Seth, Ryan. Thank you. It's been amazing and a really important work. And did someone want to say something else?
Yes. I'm Danny Barton. I'm the music manager here at Inside Wire. I just wanted to talk about I guess you call it my personal mission statement for my role here at Inside Wire. I'm a 40-year-old man. I spent the better part of my 21 years in prison overcoming the stigma and peer pressures of my former gang life. And as a DJ on Inside Wire in the morning, I DJ and host a Wednesday show in the morning, mainly hip hop. And I believe that hip hop could be used as an agent for social change. So that's my personal mission here with Inside Wire. Thank you. You guys have a good evening.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Ciao, Australia, be good. Don't forget to listen to our shows, okay?
Sunday night.
Sorry to cut it a little bit short. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone, for coming along to such a Thank you to Dwayne and Marietta and to
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everybody.